What do you think about the punishment handed down to Alex Rodriguez for allegedly taking performance-enhancing drugs? Does Major League Baseball have it out for him? Is it too much or too little, or is it just what he deserves? And if you were him, would you continue to fight, or like others, accept the suspension and move on? Well, it's your call on A-Rod versus Major League Baseball right now. Alex. What to do with Alex? On one hand, some people think he's being singled out by baseball and unfairly punished, but on the other hand, there are those who think he should be out of the game altogether. What do you think? Well, you can start to weigh in right now by emailing me at lynn@lynndoyle.net. Hello, everyone. It's good to have you with us. I'm Lynn Doyle. We're going to get right to the chase here because, as you know by now, the issue is that A-Rod, the Yankees' third baseman and arguably one of the best ever in the game, now faces a 211-game suspension for taking PEDs and impeding the investigation around him. That's according to MLB. He's fighting it, and therein lies the rub. So tell us what you think. Some think he should just man up, admit his role, take his punishment, and move on. Others say he hasn't been proven guilty of anything, and still others argue he doesn't even belong in baseball ever again. We want to know what you think, so go ahead and start emailing me right now. We're going to listen to your comments all throughout the show, but if you want to be part of it, email me at lynn@lynndoyle.net. And as always, you can find us on Facebook and follow me on Twitter. Kevin Scholla was the announcer at the Trenton Thunder minor league game that A-Rod played in prior to the announcement of his suspension. It's just one of Kevin's many announcer gigs. He's also a columnist for Breitbart Sports. Mark Simon is an attorney and CEO at Simon & Simon Law Firm in Philadelphia. He played Division I basketball in college. He's a former certified NBA sports agent. And Gary Cobb, as you know, is a former NFL player who's a sports journalist, a radio host on 94 WIP, and of course, he's the principal of gcobb.com. Hey guys, good to have you here.
It was a pleasure.
Boy, I can't wait to get into this. You guys know how much I love sports, and you know how much I know Philly's going to hate me, but I do love the Yankees. So I want to know what everybody thinks about this. I'm going to turn to Kevin and get your impression of that night that A-Rod was in Trenton for the Yankees minor league club. He was playing the Phillies minor league club. What was it like? What was the energy like there?
Absolutely wild. And, you know, I've announced for Villanova in the Wells Fargo Center, 20,000 people with a Final Four team with a lot of buzz. It never felt as loud to me announcing anything than when A-Rod came up to the plate. And
loud in a good way, loud in a bad way.
Both. And I think that that's what it was. I think usually you have all cheers or you have all boos. It was just a smattering of both, and then this boom of when he'd start to walk up to the plate, of the boos from some, the cheers from others, and this really passionate feeling toward him from both sides.
And you know, that's exactly the response that we've gotten from our audience when I put the question out there on my Facebook page, when I ask it on Twitter, what do you think? We got this overwhelming amount of response because either people think that he's, you know, getting a bum deal and that the commissioner is out to get him, that there is truly a conspiracy, or that the bum deserves to be tossed out. Gary, where do you stand?
I think it's the case really of both. I mean, I do think that he has cheated and he got caught twice. But I think they're just going after him just ridiculously hard. I mean, 200 games, I think is over the top. I say for the rest of the season and maybe for a bit of next season at the most, but not 200 games. I just think that's over the top.
So let's talk a little bit about what is over the top and what would be a responsible response, especially when we haven't heard the proof. It seems to me, Mark, that in the court of law, you couldn't just throw somebody in jail without giving them the trial first. And in baseball, it seems like that's exactly what they've done. They've punished him before they've proven their case.
Well, you're absolutely right. But as we know, sports is on display every single day on many channels. There's a difference between the court of public opinion and what's actually going on between the arbitration process, the suspensions. So they haven't shown us the evidence yet, but clearly they have something there, or 12 of the 13 players would never have just said, you're right, Major League Baseball, I'll take my punishment and I'll go away.
So you mentioned the others that were kind of in that same grouping. They got maybe 50, 60 game suspensions. He's got 211. Is this baseball trying to send a message specifically to him, or is it truly unfair?
Absolutely, it's the big fish. It's A-Rod's head on the table. You know, they didn't. Selig couldn't stand when Barry Bonds broke Hank Aaron's record. They probably wanted to do something there, didn't pull the trigger. Here they wanted to do it with A-Rod. He's the name. You look at these other names. A casual baseball fan may not even know who half of these guys are, but when you hear A-Rod, you don't even have to know baseball to know who A-Rod is. And people say, hey, they got the guy, the big fish. Is it fair? Hey, look, you look at these other guys, they've tested positive twice and are back in the major leagues. A-Rod 0 times and 211 games. I don't think it's fair.
Well, this is where you have to ask the question. We have not heard of a positive drug test being associated with Alex Rodriguez. So why would they then suspend him for 211 games?
I think this is merely about the image. You know, now baseball previously opened the door to these, PEDs coming into the game. They opened the door with McGuire and Sosa, and now they want them totally out. Hey, you let it in there. And really, you look at a guy like Ryan Braun. He got this huge contract based on an MVP year, which was on steroids. So really, they still have the incentive there for these guys to use steroids or whatever else.
You know, that's a great point. What Gary said, too, is they let it in there. And I think that is what a lot of people have a problem with right now. Not so much what they're doing to Rodriguez, but maybe Selig and some of the officials, the holier-than-thou attitude of now, oh, we're cracking down. Yet they profited on this through the whole 98 season.
It brought baseball back. That year that they did that, it brought baseball back. But really, it's because of A-Rod's popularity and the fact that they look at him and they say, you know, we can go after him hard and we can prove that we're really trying to get all of this out of baseball.
But, you know, you even used the term cheater already in the course of this program, and we've only been on the air a couple of minutes. How do you know he cheated? We have not seen evidence. He has not admitted, like Ryan Braun did, that he cheated. So for you to use that word and people across the country are doing the same thing, it seems like it's a bit unfair whether you like the guy or not. Again,
From
I go to the court of law.
You're right. From a legal standpoint, but this is public relations, and he hasn't come back and really fought back and say, hey, look, I'm innocent. He hasn't come back and said, I'm innocent, and go out publicly and say that. That's strong.
But gee, in America today, Twitter, Facebook, you're guilty until proven innocent in the court of public opinion. It's just the nature of the beast.
But did he come out? He didn't come out and just strongly deny it. I didn't use, he didn't do that.
And you just said it, Lynn, though, too, whether you like him or not. That definitely plays a part into this. People already, it's the same thing with Bonds and Clemens.
That's right.
They didn't like them already, so now when it happens, it's this pile-on that you didn't see with McGuire and Sosa because that was, the folk story that people liked.
Okay, already we're getting a lot of response, as expected, from our Facebook posting about the severity and the fairness of A-Rod's suspension. So let's check in and get some of the reaction from you guys. Robin says he shouldn't be allowed to play. What message are we sending to youth? How can we expect them to go by the rules if these rules are being stretched? And which rules do we decide are okay to break? Fran agrees with that and says she takes it one step further. She says too little for every single one of them, not just A-Rod. What message is baseball sending to the youth of America? Pete Rose was banned for life for gambling. These guys are just suspended for cheating and drug use. But after serving time, will be able to come back and make millions again. I like that comment. I think it's like, why say it's okay to do it and then come back? Why not just kick them all out right from the get-go? You cheated, cheating is cheated, right? Why say you can come back after 50 games?
I understand that people want to really go after these guys, and rightfully so. But it's like the athletes are the only ones that are going to be honest, because look, it's like every other area of our society is cheating and stealing is going on. I mean, come on.
Oh, great.
What I'm saying is that why is it just sports that's called out like that? See, that's my point. Is a lot of other people they're all right with everybody else doing it. And that's.
And you say they'll be able to.
I think that's an assumption that everybody's okay with people cheating. I think it's just more. It's just out there more, and we hear about it. And
what do people say about politicians? Oh, they all lie and cheat.
Yep.
Well, we're just all a little bit cynical.
But you say about they'll come back and be able to play. That's the case in Ryan Braun, who's a young man. But make no mistake about it, this A-Rod hit, they know exactly what his age is, they know exactly what his health condition is, and they know that this will not be a lifetime ban per se, but this will cripple his career. If he goes through with this, he'll come back, he'll be almost 40, he's already hurt all the time.
He's had knee surgery, hip surgery, he's coming back from that. If they put him down for a year and a half, he might not come back.
It's a death penalty for him, right? I mean, if he has to appeal, he has to push the envelope. His games are now. If he gets 211 games, if he takes it at the end of the year, he's done anyway.
And it's totally about the visibility, because why not go after the other guys? I mean, Ryan Braun really just kind of made a joke of everything, came out and just lied and everything. He won an MVP award. They could really slap him hard if they really wanted to, but they're not. Just going after Rodriguez.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a short break, but we're going to give you an opportunity once again to weigh in. And if you stick with us, when you come back, you're going to hear what Pete Rose has to say about the situation. Since a lot of people are comparing the two scenarios, we wanted to know what he had to say, so we're going to share that with you when we return. Stay with us.
I don't know if any of them ever said I use PEDs. I haven't saw any of the players that got suspended say I took drugs and it was wrong. You know, everybody just says I made mistakes. Well, I made mistakes too, and I get one on my team to win every night. But you know, everybody's got a different way of answering the question.
He didn't really answer the question, did he, if you ask me? That was Pete Rose on the A-Rod suspension and potential ban from baseball. We're asking if you agree with Charlie Hustle, and while we're talking about him, do you think it's fair that he's still out of the game of baseball? If you want to join in, you can email me at lynn@lynndoyle.net, or you can find us on Facebook. We're going to check in with some of your Facebook comments in just a second. We had a great discussion during the break. We really ought to have the cameras going just 24/7 here. But I was asking the question of why there isn't in the collective agreement or collective bargaining agreement, specific punishments for specific crimes against baseball, so to speak. If you use, why doesn't it say, okay, if you've used and we can prove it, it's a mandatory 50 game? Or if we can't prove it and we think it's the best interest of baseball that's been hurt, then it's 200 games. Why isn't it set out more specifically?
They do have, for drug violation under the joint drug agreement, a 50 game for first time ban, 100 game, and then a lifetime ban. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to take that portion, put 50 games, which all the other players accepted, and then this best interest of baseball, which comes from the other half, from the actually collectively bargained agreement, and say because you obstructed justice, you allegedly intimidated witnesses, you were not truthful when we came at you with these biogenesis allegations, we're going to tack another 161 games on to 211. And that's something that there's very little, if no precedent for.
You know what else is interesting about Rodriguez, though, specifically? We talked about not admitting it or people admitting it. You know, not PEDs per se, but he did admit to using steroids years back.
In 2009.
Right. He did admit this before joining the Yankees, or right after joining the Yankees. Right. And, you know, so in a way, he's been more cooperative than, say, McGuire and Sosa and those who, you know, lied to Congress or, you know, suddenly couldn't speak English in front of Congress or whatever happened there on that St. Patrick's Day years back. And so, in a way, he has actually, you know, been a little more truthful than others. Mark McGuire's the hitting coach with the Dodgers. These guys, and yet they bandied about a possible ban for life for Rodriguez. Yeah,
so all of them have kind of slid back in, you know, and so it does look like they're just singling him out.
It's like the Elliot Spitzer of baseball. He just slid right back into politics no matter what he did wrong.
That's another show. We need another half hour at least.
Boy.
Let's check in with Facebook now and see what Anthony has to say. He's brought up an interesting point. Quote, all of the others got 50 games. He should not get over 200 just because he's A-Rod. The commish blew it by making it so high. If he would have given him 100, he probably would have taken it and we wouldn't have this circus. It's his own fault. He's referring to the commissioner. Thomas has a very long comment, so I have to basically paraphrase it for you, but it's a good one. He talks about athletes being paid outrageously and that there's a responsibility as a role model that comes with being an athlete. He also points out that he himself was a policeman for 33 years and says if he had failed a drug test, he would have lost his job. No question, no doubt, no problem. So finally he says if you're going to cheat, then you should have a lifetime ban, plain and simple. And Bob adds, Pete Rose gets a lifetime ban from baseball for gambling, but A-Rod only gets suspended? Where is that fair? And finally, Anise thinks cheating equals a bigger paycheck, fame, and popularity. You'll never see athletes' salary being decreased, so drugs will never be eliminated from any sport in our lifetime. They live by a different standard than the rest of us. Oh, I have to go to Gary Cobb on that one because he lived by a different standard in the NFL.
No. But I think she makes a very good point. I mean, if players are going to benefit, which I tell you, some of these guys, they definitely benefited. They played way over their head. They had a great career. Then they signed a 5-year deal for over $100 million. And somebody says, you shouldn't have done that, meaning they have to miss maybe half of 1 year. That's a great deal, because if they hadn't have done that, then they would have never got the big deal. So there's incentive there to continue doing that. So she really makes a good point.
All right, I have a question for you guys. If he supposedly was doing steroids and it was going on in the last 4 or 5 years that he's been with the Yankees, why has he had the injuries that he's had? I know none of you are medical guys, but you're all sports guys.
They say the steroids really kind of cause some of that because the muscles are bigger and they stress the joints more. And so he's had knee problems, hip problems. They say that because the muscles get so strong, they put so much stress on the joints that it causes injuries.
It's a great point, though, because I've always contended that, too, about with Barry Bonds. You know, people say, Barry Bonds was great before any of the allegations. Yeah. And so, if you're hitting home runs, 90 rows into the seats instead of 3 rows, it's still a home run. You get a guy off the street and start, shooting him up today, he's not going to be, a Philly or a Met or a Yankee in the next couple of weeks. And now here's a great all-time player in Alex Rodriguez, who you said still, if he were allegedly doing this, still not performing or still hurt. It was in the question, does it really help?
Well, it helps, but, you've got to have a great player there to be enhanced to get to the level that some of these guys have gotten to. It means they got to be able to have great, eye control, to be able to hit the ball and everything. Right. But then that gives them more power, so a ball might go 10 feet further or 20 feet, and so it's out of the ballpark rather than on the warning track.
That's how you get a $250,000 salary.
Saying it, people at home are saying, see, it all comes down to the money.
These people don't even.
Excuse me.
$250,000,000.
Right.
These people don't even mind if they're out 50 games because they still get paid.
A-Rod, $250,000,000 salary.
So is it the money or his legacy in the sport that is prompting him to file this appeal and stay in the game as long as he can?
I think it's the money. It's probably some that he wants to have
some type of legacy. $350 million. How much more does he need?
He wants to get all of that money that's there. They got to pay him the rest of that contract, and I think that's definitely plenty of motivation there. He would like them to remember him in a nice way, but we've seen that.
I think that ship has sailed. Remembering him in a nice way, even though there wasn't a drug act back when he allegedly took steroids, which he later admitted. Guys who have nothing to lose have nothing to lose. And he has nothing to lose now.
If you were his agent, would you be advising him to fight this to the nth degree? Because the longer he fights, he has the money, obviously, to put the lawyers up for it, that he has a better chance of winning over some of that court of public opinion?
No, I would advise him as his agent because I don't want to give back my 4% that I made off of his salary.
It always comes down to money, but I'll tell you this.
But he'd be paying the lawyers.
He really could do some things, I think. Publicly, he's got a nice personality. People have a short memory. Come on, the country has a short memory. After a while, they'll forget about this. I mean, look at McGuire. He's back. Nobody really is out there saying anything to him. So the country has, especially the fans, they have a short memory.
And a lot of people like him. He has his contingent that's for him, whether it's a Yankee thing or just a, Rodriguez thing.
Well, I've heard people say, even if they don't like him specifically, that they don't like this process. They kind of feel like he's being punished for something that he did previously, much like people say O.J. Simpson's in jail for 33 years, not for the crime he committed most recently, but the one that people think he committed before.
It's come into play. I mean, people have definitely thought that A-Rod, they're hitting A-Rod because he's A-Rod, not because of the crime. You look at the other names on the list, the casual baseball fan may not even know half of them.
All right. Well, we're going to ask our viewers what they think. We're taking another short break, but when we come back, some more of your comments about A-Rod taking on the MLB. Would you support his position? Do you think he should fight for his life, or should he man up and say, hey, I did it, punish me, I'll be back in another year? We'll be right back. Okay, so he lied about taking steroids back in 2003. He admitted it and eventually says that he never did it again. He has not failed a drug test. He says there's information that will clear him. So does Alex Rodriguez have any credibility with you whatsoever? Do you think he deserves to have his side heard before being suspended or even banned? Or do you believe the commissioner's office has the goods on him? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Lynn Doyle. This is It's Your Call. We're giving you a chance to weigh in on the A-Rod controversy. He, of course, is taking on Major League Baseball. He says, you know, he's going to appeal his suspension. He wants to play. He's in the stadium every night, getting a very, very interesting reception from crowds. Here's an interesting couple of emails from our viewers. Ted has written in, I want to get the guy's opinion on this. MLB teams should not be allowed to replace a suspended player. Maybe then they'll pay a little more attention. A-Rod is making Selig look like a fool. And Mike writes, going forward, it should be the first time is an automatic 1-year suspension. The second time is a lifetime ban. What do you think about that?
Those are strong, but I tell you, if they did have it that way, they would get it out of baseball. I know getting hit like that, that would really scare some guys.
So maybe put the onus on the owners here to pay a little bit more attention. If you can't replace A-Rod, why not say, hey, the owners will have to pay attention?
They're not going to be able to. I think the union is too strong and wouldn't give in to that.
Wouldn't give in to it. Okay. Well,
I mean, you have to have your roster, your 25-man roster. I mean, the union would say, you know, that we're going to get people hurt without other bench players. They could never, you know, that's pie in the sky stuff.
But what about the idea of saying, okay, 1 busted, 2 gone?
Well, you know, it would make things a lot clearer one way or another if the rules were there, like you mentioned earlier. Like, here's the deal: this is, you do this, you're out. You do this, you're out. You do this, you're out.
I can't believe how many times we've talked about steroids, performance-enhancing drugs in the years that we've done this show. In 17 years that we've been doing the show, I bet we've talked about this every year, at least once or twice. So you talked about Barry Bonds, you talked about Sammy Sosa, you talked about Mark McGwire. These are not new issues. Why are we still dealing with it after all this time?
Because there's still an incentive for the players to do it, and they're still using. And I don't think that the MLB is strong enough to negotiate with the union to get it out.
Well, Gary's right. 50 games
he
versus...
loves to hear that. Don't say it too often.
On this point, 50 games versus millions and millions of dollars, it's a risk that they're going to be willing to take.
This really, to me, sounds like they're looking the other way until someone gets caught. And then it's like, oh, bah, look at that. It's so horrible. It's so horrible. But you would think that they would be on top of it and regulating their own players. That's my opinion. I think that
this recent bust with A-Rod and with all these names, it may crack down a bit as far as big-time guys. But you're always going to have that group. Let's say you're a minor league player who you say, well, if I use, I might make it to the bigs. If I don't, I won't make it. So if I get caught, you know, you're playing with house money. So I think you're always going to have someone trying.
Well, I'm so glad you said that because, you know, I was looking at the numbers and it's like, what, 12, 13 guys in this sweep? That's it? How many players are there in the major leagues?
Because
you're telling me it's only these 13 guys that are doing it?
Because they're connected to the clinic.
Yeah.
The biogenesis.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas this has nothing to do with the rest of the league that could just be doing their own thing.
So if I'm A-Rod, what do? Do you just go as long as you can, fight as long as you can, and hope you come out on the other side?
Well, then one point to what you just said is that the elephant in the room here is Major League Baseball. Nobody's tuning in to watch Jim Smith, who's a utility player who plays once a week. People are paying to watch the Yankees because of A-Rod, because of Jeter. People are going to Milwaukee to see Ryan Braun. So, you know, Major League Baseball doesn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Hey, I'm going to watch Jim Smith.
These guys are helping them.
I happen to know Jim Smith, and I'm going to watch him. I got to go.
People like A-Rod are helping them make big money.
Okay, so tell me, in a nutshell, what will the end result be? What will happen, in your opinion? Project it.
I think they're going to probably suspend him for maybe 100 games. I think they're going to lessen it.
And your prediction, Kevin?
I think we'll see where he is as far as the number of games, but as far as coming back, it'll probably be maybe with another team.
Okay, and Mark?
Well, they're not going to decide until November, so it looks like he's going to play the rest of this year. I think 50 games.
50 games.
If the Yankees win the World Series this year, though, with him and he does well, he's out. He's going to retire and say, see you later, World Series MVP.
Hey, if they win the MVP or they win the World Series, Lenny's going to be a very happy girl.
You already got the Ravens,
Kevin,
all right?
Gary, Mark, thanks so much for being with us. Write us and tell us what you think. Find me on Facebook, everybody. See you then.